Welcome to where the screen door slams and the coffee mug hits the table. You're listening to The Family Balancing Act with me, Maureen Huntley, mom, grandmother, and board-certified holistic and functional medicine health coach. Each episode will explore the realities of your day-to-day family life in this modern era of nonstop texts, memes, and technology. After all, how do we keep ourselves sane and our family healthy? I'll have amazing guests and thought-provoking discussions, and we'll take a holistic look at family health, emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual. Whether it's a micro perspective of family involving healthy snacks, teenagers with an attitude, stressed out husbands, partners, adult children, potty training, elder care, grandchildren, college prep, or a macro perspective of world events, including flu, earthquakes, the brainwashing media, finances, and oh, so much more. We'll find a way together. So take a deep breath, exhale, and know that you're not alone. Bring on the Family Balancing Act. Welcome. Come right in, pull up a chair, grab a coffee or a green juice, because we have a lot to chat about today with my guest, Georgette Van Vliet, here on the Family Balancing Act, where we are restoring the heart of motherhood, one conversation at a time. I'm Maureen, your host, certified holistic and functional medicine health coach, mom, grandmother, wife, and CEO of My Family Home Operations, just trying to stay in so-called balance. Relationships. Yes. Complicated. Well, according to Tim Lane and Paul Tripp's book, relationships, a mess worth making. Well, I think about relationships and I think about, you and your spouse argue and it's not a discussion. In fact, it's uncontrollable emotions flying everywhere. Or your child talks back, behaves badly, makes devastating choices, well, in your opinion, but possibly in the opinion of their peers. Or then there's the boss. Yeah, the one that is consistently criticizing you. Or your friend who betrays you, talks about you behind your back and doesn't listen or cheer you on. And then, of course, there's that neighbor that's disrespectful and irritates you. Oh, God. Relationships are just that. They're a mess full of stressful conflict, anxiety, and difficult problems. But yet, are they worth it? I thought about it. Yes, and sometimes no. But only relationship that you can't run away from, no matter how hard you may try to, is the one with yourself. Maybe, just maybe, it's you not loving and respecting yourself. And that's the part of the problem, huh? Look, relationships are not just 50-50. Sometimes they're 90-10. And if you want a relationship to shift, in my opinion, to be different, look in the freaking mirror. It always starts with you, with me, each one of us. What a relationship is with ourselves, what it is with our soul, and how our soul is counting on us. Our connection to the divine, to God, but we're so busy banging into each other and they banging into us that we become numb to our needs. The relationship we have with ourselves is the foundation for all good relationships, right? Hey, if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, how on earth are we going to have a fulfilling, healthy relationship with others? So, taking a good look at my me relationship,
I end up looking at that darn ego of mine square in the eye, metaphorically, as she stands in front of me proudly announcing that I'm in the right and everyone else is in the wrong. And that's that. Then, of course, my gremlin, who is talking in my ear at this point, telling me what a loser I am and that I should just give in, slink away, and be happy. Neither one of these so-called helper characters are in the game to help me authentically be me. So I've been around on this planet for like 6 decades. Yep. And I believe that being a good friend to myself is so important. Being kind to me, speaking kindly about myself to myself. My words are powerful, even when I'm referencing myself. I've learned after a lifetime that if I catch myself saying, ugh, Maureen, you're a freaking mess, or what an idiotic thing to do, you're so stupid, I stop and I say, negate, 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 with a whisk of my hand as though I'm washing away what I had just said. I don't say those things to others. Then why am I doing it to myself? Look, it's been a lifetime of me trying to work this out. When I'm good to myself by addressing what on earth I'm tolerating and where on earth my boundaries are, then I come to find out that it's my big eternal inner battle, a lifetime battle. But when I actually address it and do it, I'm a better friend to myself, and a better friend to others. So there are other things we can do to cultivate a healthier relationship with self. It's self-care, self-compassion, mindfulness, meditation, self-help books, self-help classes, and all sorts of self-help programs to develop and grow and sustain a good relationship with ourselves. There's a lot of self in that run-on sentence. Look, it's important to connect with our inner self, yes. But most importantly is prayer, in whatever way that looks and works for you. But knowing that you're not alone in this big journey called life is huge. We need to nurture our relationship with ourselves and with our soul and our connection to the divine, just like any other relationship. And that means taking care of ourselves spiritually, physically, emotionally, and mentally. It means standing up for ourselves and our beliefs. It means treating ourselves with kindness, compassion, and respect. And then we can weather any storm that comes our way. We are more resilient and better able to cope with adversity. We also radiate confidence, peace, which attracts others to us. Start by cultivating a deep love and appreciation for yourself. Honor your needs and feelings. Be your own best friend and be amazed as your world transforms for the better. So go to MaureenHuntley.com and get your free ebook. The Stressless Healthy Holiday Starts with Mom, the busy mom's guide to surviving the holidays, because life happens. Again, it's at MaureenHuntley.com. So we're going to be right back with our guest today, Georgette Van Vliet. She is a life coach and author whose books highlight how important self-care and self-reflection are in attracting your dream life. So take a deep breath, exhale, and we'll be right back here on the Family Balancing Act.
You've listened to the shows on CTR, and perhaps you've found yourself thinking, maybe I should host my own show, but I don't know how. It's easier than you think. From the beginning, with private coaching sessions to your own live broadcasts. CTR Network will prepare you on every level to share your knowledge, expand your brand, and take your business to the next level. At CTR, we nurture your vision and make it a radio reality. Contact Cameron Steele at 425-221-3646 or Cameron at ctrnetwork.com and put your dream into motion today.
Welcome back to the Family Balancing Act, where our guest today is Georgette Van Vliet. She is a life coach and author, amazing author, by the way, whose books highlight how important self-care and self-reflection are in attracting your dream life. She shares her own experiences, dealing with depression and anxiety. I'm having trouble with that now. I need your help, Georgette, and how central the law of attraction is in helping her heal every day. She has inspired many people through her coaching practice, her books, as well as her motivational speaking engagements, and her social media presence. So welcome, Georgette. I'm so happy you're here. And by the way, she's a good friend of mine.
Thank you, Maureen. Love talking to you. It's like having breakfast like we do every once in a while.
I know. It's so great having our coffee, our tea, our breakfast, or just a chit chat. It's just wonderful having you here. And we've been on this journey together for years and years and years and talking about everything from law of attraction to self-care to just trying to get through our family stuff and relationships. And that is like key. You've done so much work for others, I know. And for all of your friends, for me, for yourself, helping us kind of find the balance, dare I say, in the muck of relationships.
And isn't that truly a wonderful part of self-care when you have a very good friend, like you and I lean on each other for the last 20 years? How many times have I had to motivate you? You've motivated me. We've just been there in a non-judgmental way, encouraging each other, loving each other, supporting each other. And we need that. You know, the world can be harsh, especially if you're struggling with depression or anxiety or just any kind of challenge. You know, everything kind of chips away at your self-worth and your self-confidence. And really, that's a really big part of taking care of yourself, is having cheerleaders in your life, having people who care about you and really can help you through those difficult times.
Yeah. Oh boy, I know. And venting. And I've talked about this on other shows too. It's so important to vent. And isn't that what we do in relationships though? We vent. We complain about another relationship. You're in relationship with one person and you're chatting about it with another. It's just how we're working it out.
Yeah. And I think you and I know in my coaching practice, we've come to a point too where we're venting and venting and venting, but we've learned how to look at our situations and say, okay, this isn't working. What can I do? What suggestions can you give me? Or how can I work through it? Mm-hmm. Because I think, and something I definitely wanted to talk about today, when we complain a lot, it just chips away at us. It just feeds negativity. It feeds depression. And so, yes, we have to vent. We have to be honest about what is happening in our life and how we're struggling with situations. But we also need to rely on good people to say, okay, that's great. What are you going to do about it? Where are you going to go from here? Yeah. And just really owning it and taking responsibility for your life.
You're not kidding. And I know what I use in my practice and I've used in my groups, and that is that they're called Kaizen steps, the itty bitty steps, not taking like a huge chunk of work, like trying to just get to the nitty gritty and doing one little step at a time forward out of that mess, those tough times. So yeah. I have probably a load of questions for you, so I'm going to apologize to begin with, but why do you think, relationships go through these lulls? They do. They go up and they go down, and then there's like this lull. What's that about? Or what is a lull?
So I think that relationships just to have natural times of silence, maybe uncomfortableness, tension. And I think that it's very hard as human beings to work through those because we don't know how to work through them. Sometimes we don't have the confidence to work through them. Sometimes we're concerned, is someone going to leave me or someone going to ghost me? You don't know how people are going to react to situations. And so you just sit there and obviously it causes a lot of stress and anxiety. But I think that if people can understand that lulls or those times when you're not talking to someone or you're a little stressed out, they're normal and they're natural in any relationship, in a partnership, a marriage, friendship. And those are the times that we learn our life lessons. As we go through those lulls and we wonder, is this relationship over? Why is it boring right now? It just gives you a chance to look at yourself and say, well, am I boring? What do I need to do to work on myself? How can I bring myself into this relationship and be present and maybe figure out a way to work through it? Mm-hmm. And I know that in my own relationships, years ago, I didn't know how to do that. It was very awkward and uncomfortable to have conversations that were, where you had to be assertive or maybe you had to express an opinion that you weren't comfortable doing.
Do you think that comes with age more, or is it, or because I know people who are older that don't step into that, including myself sometimes, where I'm not stepping into that power of being assertive, of standing up for one's belief system?
I definitely think with age, again, it's experience, right? So if you're younger and you've never seen anyone have a good relationship, if you've never seen your parents or anyone else talking to each other, maybe you've heard a lot of yelling, or in my house, there was a lot of silence. You don't know how to have constructive, positive conversations to lead you forward and to express yourself. So I do think age helps you get there, but I would hope that younger people listening to this podcast right now know, if you know it's normal and natural, it takes away that fear of, am I weird? Is this just happening to me? Am I just unlucky in relationships? It takes all of that away so you can focus on, okay, so I want to tell somebody how I'm feeling. Let me just focus on that right now. I know when I was younger and I didn't have people to talk to, I always felt like it's me, I'm unlucky. And then you get depressed. So you're not focusing on the solution. You're not focusing on what can I say to make it better. You're focusing on the depression and how unlucky you feel.
Right. You can't even see that there would be a solution when you get to that place. That awful feeling of not being able to see through the clouds is just overwhelming.
Or that you have control and you can empower yourself to move through it. Mm-hmm. Some of us have never been taught to empower ourselves. And as you do that, as you learn to speak up, it builds your confidence, it builds your self-worth. But it's a journey. It's definitely a journey. And I think another big part of this is when there's any kind of a challenge in a relationship, it is an opportunity for you to grow. It is absolutely one of your life lessons. So if you look at it like that, you move forward trying to find a solution instead of feeling like a victim. And I think that's really a great way. Like for me, whenever something comes up, I'm like, okay, what's the lesson here? What do I need to learn? Because you're always learning. These lessons will happen hopefully till the day we die.
Oh, yeah. I think we're constantly learning lessons, and we're also constantly teaching till the day we die.
Very interesting way to
other
look at
people.
it.
It's like a way, that's why I love saying, banging into each other. We're banging back and forth. We're just, throwing energy back and forth at each other. And it's like, how do you deal with that energy? And relationships, there's so many different types of relationships, so many different types of people. You can have your friend relationships and your primary relationship, your relationships with your children, the relationship with your parents. It's all different, but yet we communicate very similarly, correct, within each one, because we're pulling up from the same toolbox.
That's why it's so important to learn to be constructive and positive. Like when I speak to anybody, whether it's at work or at home, my goal, and I think it's really important when you're in a relationship, do you want to stay in the relationship? You need to make a commitment to your marriage or your friendships. If you're committed to them, you'll work on them. If you're not, you can let them go. But for me, being committed to my relationships at home, my son and my husband, and at work, my intention always is, how can I speak constructively, positively? How can I come up with a solution that works for everybody so everybody feels validated and everyone feels supported? So when I ask myself those questions before I approach a conversation, And I always try to speak in facts. I never want to hurt anyone's feelings. That's why I never speak to people when I'm hungry or tired or angry.
Hangry,
right?
Hangry.
Yeah, hungered, I call it, right? Hangered, because you have the ED, the tired part too,
Right.
that I know I deal with. So I'm not talking to people when I'm tired because I'm cranky, and it's not going to end well. So it's just all that awareness and being aware of all that, if that's what you want. And for me, it's really important to build relationships. So if I'm speaking to my husband and I'm upset, I'm not going to say anything that's going to hurt his feelings and start a fight, because I want to continue to build our relationship. I want it to be positive and joyful. And I want that for myself with all my relationships. So that's how I approach everything. How can I make this constructive, positive, and in a way that supports everyone? It works.
That's brilliant. I know when I have, like within my own relationship with my husband, and it's hard to have this conversation on a platform that's out there in the ethers, because when we're talking about our personal relationships, it's easy to let things slip, and then people think, oh my God, she's out of control, or she's really angry at us. But when I am in a place of worry or not sure how to move forward with what I want to say, I try to stand in love, and it goes back for me to stand in love with myself, with the Creator, with just connecting and taking those deep breaths. I'm always about deep breaths and exhaling, but is to give a compliment. Hey, you did that really well. Even though I didn't think you didn't, but it's sort of just to let the judgment go. Do you think that?
Yes.
That's
interesting that you say that, because you come from a place of love. I grew up in a house, and even though I'm older and I should let it go, it is an old pattern. I grew up in a house where there was a lot of fighting, a lot of bitterness, a lot of anger. So my first reaction to everything is anger. So it's interesting. That's a very good way to bring it. Where can you bring the love in? I try, because of my depression, to always bring in the light. Where can I bring in the light? It's easy for me sometimes, if I'm going to have a difficult conversation with someone, to say, bring in the light first, bring in the light for myself and the other person, just to ease the tension and to speak from that place where you're both, enlightened in a sense. It works. That works a lot too. But I love the love, bringing in the love first.
You remind me of something that we once talked about, and I don't want to throw you for a loop here, but you had described a meditation that you do or had done where you plugged yourself in, like you were in a bubble, and you plugged yourself in the stuff, in all the yuck, all the anger, all that stuff was like being sucked out.
I do that a lot. I have I call it a golden vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever I have like a horrible, when things come up for me, or I remember something, I want to let it go, because I think it's so important. Let go of the past, let go of old energy, anything that's holding you back. And if I'm thinking about something and it comes up, I'll vacuum it. I'll vacuum it like in my neck, or I'll vacuum it out of my back. I'll just have a golden vacuum cleaner that brings all that energy out. So I do it two ways. I bring either the energy up to the divine.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that'll be gone forever. Or I bring the energy through my feet into the center of the earth, where the magma just burns it up. Any old energy gets burnt up immediately. I'm not hurting Mother Nature, but it's gone. So those are two ways that I let go of, and I do it all the time. I let go of the past, old thoughts, old beliefs, things that just don't support the life I want to live today.
That's perfect. That's great. I love that. I remember when you had said that before, I had forgotten that it was a vacuum. And it's, I vacuum all the time. So I know that get that.
You're thinking of the plug where somebody has an energetic negative plug with you, where you're fighting.
Right. You just pull
lawsuit.
Those out. Right.
Exactly. You pull the plug out of that person, so they're no longer attached to you.
Right. And that you can even do with people that you are continually in relationship with. Let's say it's it could be, family member or work person, or, some crazy person you have to deal with on every other day of the week for some reason, where that you could feel their energy and that anger, but you want to stay or get back into balance with yourself and want to love yourself. It's that
cut that cord,
the plug and cutting the cord, tossing it out, getting it out of here.
Cut the cord. You don't want anybody to get hurt, but you want to cut the cord and release that energy away from you.
Yeah, and send it away with love and light. So how do you know when you should work on a relationship or you should get the hay out of it?
So, of course, I would never advocate for any relationship that has addiction issues. You know, if someone's an alcoholic or spending money or gambling, those are major things that I don't think anyone should tolerate. So if someone's in those relationships and they're thinking, should I leave? It might be a good idea to not stay in such a toxic, dysfunctional relationship. But in general, I feel that relationships go through cycles, and we get married and we have children and we buy a house and everything's happy and everything's so wonderful. And then the relationship goes through a lull. It could be boring. Maybe as a couple, you've stopped talking to each other because you're so busy with the children or careers, and people get drawn apart. And sometimes when you realize that, you're like, wow, we're not even close anymore. And you think maybe this relationship is over. Whenever someone comes to me and I'm coaching them, I always ask them to give the relationship a try, bring love back into the relationship. If you've been in a lull like that for a couple of years and you say to your spouse, hey, listen, I'm going to make dinner tonight, or let's go to a movie, you can't expect instant results. But if you're committed to the relationship, and you work on it for months, maybe you can bring the love back. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't come back, maybe it is time to end it. But I always encourage people, try to work on the relationship because there was love there. You cared about each other. You had the spark with each other. And a lot of times it's just life that gets in the way. But you can, if you're committed, you can bring that spark back. And you don't even have to tell your spouse. You can just work on it yourself. One of the greatest moments for me when I was very, very depressed and my son was young, I was talking to a girlfriend and I said, there's no joy in our house. I remember really feeling that way, that we were just like dead in this house. And that's when she told me about the law of attraction. And I was practicing happiness and great gratitude, and I'm journaling, and I was really working on it. And like within 6 months, one day, there was like a laughter in my house and we were eating dinner together. And I went, wait a minute, what happened? I didn't do it on purpose, but I created it because I brought the joy in for myself, and it just permeated to the whole family. So just don't give up. If you try, even if you don't feel like it, try. And, you and I know better than anybody because we're married a long time, that, you can, not only can you bring the joy back, it's so much deeper when you reconnect. And the love is so much deeper because you have reconnected and you've put the work in and you're like a stronger team. It's the best feeling, I think.
It is. And there's this business of perfection. And I remember years ago, I went to see a psychic when I first got married. And I don't know why I did that, but somebody had shuffled me that way and I decided to go. And he said, oh, that like romantic, deep, sexy love that you're in now, that is going to mature. And it didn't even have to be a psychic to say that to me, but I needed to hear it. It could have been the priest. I don't know. It could have been anybody who had some wisdom about just as we age, it morphs, it changes, and it does get deeper. It does get richer, but it's going to go through wonky times. Believe me, we've had definitely wonky times, and you throw other family members in, you throw children in, you throw financial stress in, you throw in other family members, extended family stuff, family members who are having tough times, and you have in another state, and you're trying to be in two places at the same time, and your spouse is working, you're working. It's just so hard to put it all into perspective and balance.
It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting.
I know, just describing that was exhausting.
Right. Just what you said. But I love that you said it because it validates people. They know that if they're exhausted, if they feel tired in their relationship, if they feel that they need to go in their room and have some private time to read, it doesn't make the marriage bad. It's okay to take that time to yourself. It's okay to heal yourself. And I think that we need to give ourselves permission to do that. And that's part of the self-care while you were talking earlier about self-care, what kept coming to me is I'll take care of everybody else and then I'll take care of myself. But then I'm too exhausted and I pass out going to bed at night. So I've stopped doing that. But it's been a work in progress because I was so angry and bitter at everybody when in reality it was my own doing. Learning to take care of yourself first isn't selfish. You're supposed to do that. And then everything else will work itself. Because those things you just mentioned, they never go away. Every day there's something.
You're right. They never go away. It's how we deal with them. It's how we view them. I know I've had times when I've been, I was lucky enough to get away with some girlfriends for mother's group recently. And in the past, we would all be getting together. We'd be doing Christmas shopping. We'd be, going out to dinner. We'd just be this giant moving mob of women together for a 48-hour time period. But every time I was doing this, I would find that, and one of them will be listening and they'll laugh because I would need to step out. We'd get back and I'd be like, I've got to go take a 15-minute nap. And they're like, a 15-minute nap? Who takes a 15? I do. I take a 15-minute nap. I even do this with my family, even with the kids. I'd put my husband on it on a Saturday. I take them. I need a 15-minute nap. It wasn't so much that I could actually fall asleep for 5 to 10 minutes and I'd feel like I'd slept through a whole night. But it was just separating myself from the energy and from all the relationships, all the people talking, and it's not that anything was upsetting me or bothering me. It's actually a lot of joy, but it's just there's energy coming off of everyone.
And sometimes you need to decompress from your own energetic issues. So I'm going to make you laugh. When my friends and I go away, everybody knows Georgette gets her own room. I don't share a room because when I go in that hotel room, and my husband knows it too, he totally respects that. There are just some times where I need to be alone in a hotel room. It's one of my favorite things to do. It fills me. I feel better. And I'm a better mother. I'm a better wife, a better everything because I have that downtime. So it's
wow.
And a lot of people are like, really? You do that? I'm like, yes. And my husband does it too, loves to play golf. So he goes and he, for a few hours, and I respect it. I never tell him no. And he respects what I need to do because our life is so full. It's full of love, it's full of joy, but it's also full of challenges. And this is how we cope and come back together and really enjoy each other's company.
That's cool.
Every relationship needs that, right? Every relationship needs to figure out. I think that's another thing too with relationships. There are these beliefs, we've got to do everything together. No, you can't go with your friends. No, you can't do this. And then we stop each other. That's where the resentments come in. We stop each other from fulfilling what we need. I think we need to respect, okay, you need a little time to yourself, go, and come back and be happier.
That is you're right on with that. And I have, I have a fairly good size home and a lot of our kids have gone off and, grown up, and some have come back, and I have plenty of them come back on and off, but they are, even when the house is full, we have spaces we can go to. I can still hear people, and it's not that large that it's, that I can't see people, but it's just, you need to step away and go to your space.
And sometimes for me, it's just as simple as going for what I call a meditative walk. If I can't go away for a weekend, I can step out of my house by myself, no cell phone, no dog, nobody with me, and I can just go for a walk and I can just decompress. I can, I get my best creative thoughts when I do that. And it's a simple way to be in touch with yourself, in touch with your intuition, and just give yourself a break. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a weekend away. It could be something just as simple as walking by yourself somewhere.
That's fantastic, because that's the best self-care, is just being alone with yourself.
Yeah, and knowing you need the time alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's interesting that you say that, because when I started my meditative walks, it's really when I learned to love my own company. I am definitely my own best friend,
mm-hmm.
and I love my company, but I learned that from walking and just hearing my own thoughts and talking back to myself in a way, just going through playing scenarios or whatever I needed, whatever clarity I needed, I was able to bring it to myself. Learning to tap into my intuition through meditative walks was a tremendous gift that I gave myself.
That's beautiful. I know that when we don't take the time to be alone with ourselves, chaos ensues. And I used to be like a whirling dervish. Running everything and my children and running around and just everybody is happy here. Or if they're not, we're going to pretend like it is. We're going to keep this ship floating and this car running. And I was, on just a treadmill and everybody, oh, she's so energetic. But I was running away from being alone with myself.
I don't know about that. Or is it just that at some times in our life, we're containers and we contain our entire family's energy, disappointments.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
That's how I think. I think when our kids are young, especially, we're the container and we absorb everything because we love them so much and we want so much for them to be happy. And it's so funny. I remember you being like that when your kids were young. You were a whirling dervish, but I think you were much more in tune with your children. And now that they're older, you don't have to be that anymore. And it's like, I can enjoy myself, right?
There is that but at the same time, there is this other piece that's like, are they okay? I haven't heard from them. When they, like I have all this inner gremlin voices going on. Well, you haven't heard from them. You don't know if they're okay. You should worry. I don't want to worry, but you should worry. So you get this stuff going on. So
true.
There's always something. So what beliefs are holding one back from creating a wonderful, loving, and vibrant relationship? Like, what are those beliefs?
Unfortunately, I think a lot of the beliefs come from Hollywood and from Disney movies.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Yes, it's so great. It's the lamestream media.
Yes,
lamestream media. There's just a ton of crap out there. It is just bombarded with stuff and noise, and we listen to it so much that we become like also, almost like mind altered from it.
Absolutely. And when you're watching a movie and everyone's dressed up and gorgeous and they're falling in love and they're having passionate relationships and everything happens in an hour-long movie, and then we expect our relationships to look like that. And I'm very concerned for younger people who are looking to meet someone, because when you see those movies, you think that a relationship happens instantly and they want instant love and instant marriage. And it doesn't work like that. As human beings, our minds really don't let us do that, which is why so many young people are, it's just challenging for them. So I think it's that those kind of beliefs that it's going to be perfect and it's going to be the big house and the Maserati and you're going to live by the ocean. And it's just filling your head with these wonderful fantasies. But the reality of everyday life is it is boring sometimes. And sometimes you do have financial challenges or other types of challenges. I think merging two people from two different backgrounds takes a lot of work. You have to be able to be open-minded, to understand each other and to be compassionate as you really get to know each other deeply, and what family beliefs they bring to the relationship and what you bring and what you also, like a big part of when I'm coaching, it's very funny when I say to someone, what's your part in it? What beliefs do you bring that are limiting the relationship? And people, it's just very easy to blame the other person.
Right.
It's a lot harder to look at ourselves.
Personal
what a beautiful
responsibility
thing,
for our own stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to look at our own stuff, but when you start to do it and you bring that awareness to yourself, your life changes. You really bring, you just look at every relationship and you soften yourself and say, okay, what can I bring in here? What does this person need? How am I of value in this relationship? So you're not always looking at it like, well, it's his fault or it's her fault or they're wrong. And, you're just a lot softer about, about the relationship. And again, like we started the conversation, it's a life lesson. You learn so much about yourself through the relationships. But I do worry about the whole Cinderella, the whole Hollywood. I think that there's a lot of shoulds that come in a relationship. And then when it doesn't happen, people are confused on what went wrong. And it's not reality.
Well, I find that there is, you look at the whole media and marketing and Hollywood, it's Jollywood, whatever we want to call it, that you got, Instagram stars, and you've got TikTok stars, and you've got the Kardashians, and you've got, fashion houses doing awful things and using, pornography, basically, and worse, in their advertising, and it's not only affecting the relationship you will have with someone else. That's, someone you think, oh, I want somebody like, whoever Kim Kardashian is with this week, but it's the relationship to self again. It goes right back to self. Like, and I see people with the, with the Instagram, and kids I know, kids, I'm talking 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds even, who are like pursing their lips and doing, funky things in the way they present themselves and in different types of, different media formats. And it's like, whoa, how do we see ourselves? What are we promoting or what are we pushing?
Yeah, I'm not judging anybody because I feel for Kim Kardashian. I feel for Jennifer Lopez. I see gorgeous, extremely successful women, but their obsession with having a man is sending a message out to young women about, and it's also, I would love to coach them. Like, that's my dream. Like, what is it that you're searching for? What are you looking for in a relationship that no one's satisfying you?
Well, the other thing is, though, is that is it all fake? Is it all their is it being managed and it's just a facade? Like, they really are not fully that way, but it's being presented like that. And that's what's screwing with the heads of those absorbing this stuff in.
I think it is, because if you follow them, like whenever Jennifer Lopez meets someone, what's the first thing she does? She gets on a yacht. She goes to the Riviera, and she's in France, and she's in the Greek islands. Same thing with Kim Kardashian. Every time she meets someone, she goes on these amazing vacations. So of course it's wonderful. Of course it's perfect and sensual and a fairy tale like relationship. But the minute you come home and you have to deal with the reality of like who's going food shopping, where are the kids, that's when I think they can't deal with those mundane, everyday things. And that's where, like, again, I'd love to coach them, because I think that it's wonderful that they go on these yachts and they're cruising and they're doing, but that's not reality in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they know that. So I think that they may be very confused as well. Like, well, why isn't this working out? We were just in Italy, we had a great time. Why, when we come home, why isn't it working out? Because I don't know if they know the difference between the fantasy and the reality of a relationship.
This stuff has been going on, I think, at that level of the Hollywood types or whatever, we'll just call them that. This has been going on since the beginning of the industry, really, certainly with Judy Garland and,
Liz Taylor.
Liz Taylor was married, 9 times or whatever. So it's just trying to one up themselves. And you keep putting that stuff out there, we absorb it. We're absorbing all that stuff coming off of the filter of the tell me a vision. But, And
it's interesting, because now that you say that, is another thing I wanted to mention. We talked about relationships. When do you know when to go, when to stay? I think a lot of people, and people like in Hollywood, the minute it gets hard, they run away. Like, we'll get divorced. Here's your 80 million. I'll take 80 million. You take 80 million. I'll see you later. I think that's the issue. Like, when it gets hard, sticking it out, working through the hard part, that it's excruciating, as having, being married. It's very hard to have your stuff come up, to deal with it, have your partner's stuff come up, to have those difficult conversations, those sleepless nights, those arguments. That's not easy, but it is worth it when you get through it and you get to the other side. It's that's paradise. Knowing your partner has your back, your partner stayed with you, your partner's, is just your stay. It's a beautiful feeling.
Right. It's actually miraculous at times. I remember when we were first married that we were married about a year. We had an argument and I was very upset, and I just walked out the door with it was my car in the driveway, by the way. I'm the one that had the car. So I took my car keys and I got the car and I was going to drive somewhere. I was so angry. I was like, I'm done. And I got in the car and there were a swarm of bees in my car, bees all over my car, in my car and around my car. And I leapt out of the car, opened up the doors, and the bees were, and all I could do was stand outside and just watch the bees cry, whatever. And I had to go back in. I had to have the conversation. I had to face what I was running away from. And that was a miracle because, years, 37 years later, I'm still in it. And, there've been, like moments like that continue, but they all have their own little miracles. I just, I'm amazed at how that happened and why that happened. So,
and it's still happening, right? It doesn't matter if you're married 1 year, 10 years, or 20, right. 30. You still have to have the difficult conversations. You're still compromising. You're still, you're still trying to love each other and make sure that the person's happy and you're happy. You're still doing that dance.
Right.
You're still doing.
Right. And honoring ourselves and the relationship also.
And I think too, like when you're with someone for a long time, you do have to let go of bitterness. You've got to let go of the resentment and the anger. Those are things like with the golden vacuum I was talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. You just got to get those things off of you. You've got to suck it up in a way, because if you don't, the relationship will crumble. Like if you really want a relationship to work, you've got to let go of all that so you can move forward, have the conversations, and be in a loving place.
Right.
It should always be your intention to be in a place of love and joy and happiness in your relationship.
Yeah, starts with us, starting with ourselves. Really, again, it always goes right back to that. So how do you learn how to communicate, in a relationship with anybody when you've never seen anyone else do it? Like, how's that happen? Like that, I need help with that.
Okay. So you need to set the intent. You have to, I journal. I don't journal so much now. I've journaled for the past 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
In my most difficult times, I was journaling every morning. And the main question I ask myself is, what do I want? And I think that's a question that we don't ask ourselves enough, because when we're frustrated and angry in the relationship and we can't express it, it's because we don't know what we want. So we have to be very clear about what we want from ourselves, from our partner. And that gives you a lot of power. That really empowers you when you know exactly what you want to say. I think meditative walking is huge. So when my husband and I were going through a difficult time a few years ago, I would go for a long walk in the park, and I would throw it up to God or the universe, and I would say, help me, give me solutions. I would look up at the sky and say, what's the answer here? What do I need to do? And I remember once walking for like 3 weeks. I wouldn't give up on the question. All right, I was like playing with God. I'm like, all right, stop torturing me. Give me the answer. Tell me what to do here.
He's like, I already gave you the answer. You're not listening.
Not listening, right? It's so true. That's one of my biggest problems. A little bit of stubbornness there, but I was walking, and all of a sudden a light bulb went off, and I realized how much I was imitating my parents. And I didn't absolve my husband from the arguments, but I realized that what I bring into a relation to the conversation is anger, just like what I saw with my parents. So I came home and I shifted it, and the minute I saw it, I came home and I was able to talk. I was able to speak clearly. So journaling, meditative walking, even sitting with your partner and saying, I don't know how to express myself. I don't know how to say this. So please just bear with me while I try to communicate what I'm feeling. And coming from a place of love, even if you're angry, coming from a place of love, like, I didn't like the way you spoke to me last night at the party. I didn't like the way you said this to me. I was embarrassed when this happened, and not bringing any judgments into it. So of course you might want to say to someone, you are such a jerk. Well, if you say that, you're starting a fight. But if you can say, last night when you said, I look fat in those pants in front of my friends, that really hurt my feelings. Now you can have a conversation about exactly what's bothering you.
Right.
So it's just
never about that, is it?
Right.
It's never about that was because something else happened or something else was going on.
But you have to start the conversation somewhere. And if you say you're a jerk, I hate you, that's not starting the conversation. That's starting a fight. There's a difference between starting a fight and starting a conversation. So we need to learn how to start conversations that can continue so you can get to the root of what's really bothering both of you. And you're right, Maureen. How many times have I said something like that? And my husband was like, well, a month ago you did this. And I didn't know I bothered him a month ago. I didn't know he was harboring resentment. So we start to be able to talk about it. And it's hard to hear, but if you care about the relationship, you'll hear it and you'll go, okay, wow, I didn't realize I did that. Or I didn't realize I said that. Or I didn't realize I was acting this way. Mm-hmm. And then you have to look at yourself too.
Yeah.
So
it's something that we all have to do. And sometimes I find that when I'm in those situations where I have to look at myself and I don't want to see that piece of myself. And there are plenty of things that even at this point, I'm still doing that. And I'll kind of make note of it, but I don't want to give in during the discussion because that hurts too much, because it really hurts too much. And yeah, I'm dragging it forward from what I witnessed in my home growing up. And even though my home was full of love, there was my parents loved each other so much at times that they had forgotten they had children. That was kind of where they were very much, together. And my mother, when she would get mad, would just do the silent treatment to anybody and everybody, even her kids, for like 2-3 days. It's very Irish of her. And that's something that I made a note of that I would never do. And even when I want to do it, I think I've done it once. And my husband was like, whoa, you're not talking to me. I'm like, it's working. But I only did it once because it's an awful feeling to have somebody do that. It's just, that's awful.
But you can clearly communicate. I can't talk to you right now because I'm angry and I'm going to say awful things. So let's just give me an hour. Give me an hour to cool off and I'm going to come back and we'll have the conversation. I've done that. Like, just let me cool off because I don't want to speak in anger. Yeah. I don't say nice things when I'm angry. And I know that about myself. I'm not proud of it. But boy, do I have I can curse, I can be nasty. And that doesn't help anybody. And Maureen, I have a funny story to tell you. You just reminded me of something so funny. I forgot about this. These things in a relationship, like, do you work at it? Like the meditative walking, the journaling, what do I want? Learning how to communicate clearly. Going through those difficult times before you give up on the relationship. I've been married before. And when I didn't have any skills in my first marriage. I was younger, married a few years. I was like, I'm done, I'm out, see you later. And I used to walk around saying to everybody, of course I'm going to get married again. I'm going to have a great relationship. I'm going to live happily ever after. And I was so excited to get remarried. I met my husband. We got married. I was so naive. And I'll never forget one day being in the bathroom, looking in the mirror and going, oh my God, another man, different problems. Like, it was so, like, in other words, I was going to have to face those life lessons, whether I liked it or not. And that was a big reality moment of like, yeah, you can jump around in relationships, but guess what? If you don't learn your lessons, if you don't work through this stuff, it just keeps showing up.
Right. Well, wherever you go, there you are.
Beautiful.
You're never going to get away from you. You're never going to get away from yourself.
So learn to love you, right? Learn to love yourself.
You got to love yourself. Georgette, you were wonderful to have this deep conversation with. And yet, I know at times we're skimming some of this, the touching on all these different subjects, but your honesty about your own stories are incredible. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's big. And
I just hope it helps people. I hope my stories help others to know that you're normal, validate any quirkiness in your life. We're all in this together. So that's what I hope I bring to people.
Yeah, we're all swimming in the deep end together, I tell you. I have one more question for you. How can you learn and grow while dealing with these challenges in a relationship? Like, how do you grow through this and hang on to that growth and not revert back?
It's like the movie Groundhog Day. You're doing this every single day. I think that was a really big thing for me. Like, when I was in my depression and I was struggling, I remember going to see Wayne Dyer speak. And how enlightened, and it was wonderful. And I would be highly energized for a couple of days, but then it would go away. And it took me a long time to realize that the journaling, the meditative walking, the constructive conversations, the intention to be joyful, the intention to be curious about life, that's something that I focus on every single day so that I'm always working on myself. And some days are great, and other days my life lessons smack me across the face, and that's okay. And and like you said earlier, I accept myself. I don't judge myself. I'm a human being having a human experience, and it's not always pretty, but I muddle through, and that always cracks me up. I muddle through as gracefully as I can some days, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine in college who would always like trip and fall, and she was always just a mess. And she'd always bounce back up and go, just call me Lady Grace.
I love it.
Like, wow, she's right. And I feel like I'm always doing that too. I'm always banging into people, banging into relationships, and living in assumption. We have to be aware of what we're assuming and judging around another.
Yeah, I feel for me, that shows up with resistance. When I start getting stubborn or resistant to things, I'm like, all right, something's up here. Like you're not, you don't want to see something, you don't want to deal with something. So it's just being aware of your own patterns. And instead of allowing yourself to be angry, like when you feel the anger, say, what's up? Why am I feeling this way? And being able to quickly snap out of it and be aware of what you need to do in that, what's triggering.
Right.
Yeah, life to live a fulfilling life, it takes effort on our part. It takes the self-care. It's the same effort in the relationship. Like everything is that belief that happily ever after, when the movie ends and everyone's going to go off and sail into the sunset, it's just a movie. Real life requires us to be present and aware and caring and kind, compassionate.
Well, you think of the movie Shrek, and then they did Shrek 2, and it didn't work out like that.
Good point. Yeah, it's a good one.
Like they're always the sequel is a bit of a hot mess. So it always shows the truth if you if there are any sequels.
And that's why I like Shrek so much.
Yeah, right. That one kind of is a truth. So absolute joy having you join us today. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you? And I know that you and I are also planning on putting together our workshop. And that is still in the works, but I will let the listeners know, and we'll have you on again for a little piece to just launch that.
I'm very excited about that, that we're going to offer a free workshop for people, right? We're going to, perhaps I would like it to be on self-renewal. Like, how do we renew ourselves to attract our goals or maybe a mate or a better relationship? So that's something that I would like to offer your listeners. And then my website is my name, Georgette Van Vliet. And right now I'm giving away a book as well. It's called Release Negative Emotions and Love Your Life. And it's exactly what we've been talking about, journaling, reflecting, self-reflection, meditative walking, I detail a lot of the very simple ways that I've helped myself, get out of depression and anxiety and have the life that I love. And of course, all my other books are there as well. And there's another great book, Attract Love, Joy, and Abundance, that I think would help people. I think those two books, Release Negative Emotions and Love Your Life, and Attract Love, Joy, and Abundance, are two beautiful books to really help you, develop a positive, abundant mindset and just shift away from anything that's not working in your life.
I love it. That's beautiful. And you're also, I know you're like a rock star on Instagram. So what is your handle for Instagram?
Same handle, my name, Georgette Van Vliet. They can see my name, right?
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Okay, great.
We'll put that on in the message.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But
always a pleasure to talk to you, Maureen. You're one of my dearest friends. I love you so much.
God bless.
Been such an inspiration to so many people, and just keep on rocking it.
Thank you so much. I just adore you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we will be right back with some mom sense. Yes, some mom sense that can also be used with the family, but we go with mom first. So take a deep breath, exhale, and we will be right back.
You've listened to the shows on CTR, and perhaps you've found yourself thinking, maybe I should host my own show, but I don't know how. It's easier than you think. From the beginning, with private coaching sessions to your own live broadcasts, CTR Network will prepare you on every level to share your knowledge, expand your brand, and take your business to the next level. At CTR, we nurture your vision and make it a radio reality. Contact Cameron Steele at 425-221-3646 or Cameron@ctrnetwork.com and put your dream into motion today.
Welcome back to the Family Balancing Act. So take a deep breath. Exhale. And now close your eyes if you're not driving. If you are, just take a deep breath, carry on, be safe. And put your attention on your heart. Just put one hand on your heart and just breathe in. And know that you are of value. You are love. You are light. You are a part of the cosmos. You are part of God. You are part of what all is. And know that you are so loved, but it does start with you. It starts with you. So take another deep breath in and exhale. Thank you so very much for joining me once again for this episode of the Family Balancing Act. Our intention here is that we get quiet and we hear, we feel what our heart is saying. Everything you need is inside of you, everything. And the outside is just a reflection, an illusion, a noise. So know that you're not here on the family, you're not alone here on the Family Balancing Act. And thank you so very much for CTR, for our podcast platforms, which we are on so many right now. It's so wonderful. And for everywhere that we are being played. So have a wonderful, wonderful day, week. And until next time, take a deep breath and exhale. And know that you're not alone here on the Family Balancing Act.